Miguel.
I'm Andrea,
I'm Dario, and this is Historic Pandas.
and today we're going to talk about Latin America.
Hey, cut the intro!
Why do we have to talk about Latin America? It's so boring.
What do you mean by why? Latin America is an amazing continent. Latin America is the most urbanized region in the world, with about 80% of its population living in cities.
Who cares about that?
Plus, that's the region Mr. Hervoy assigned us.
Fine.
So I guess we should start already. What's first?
Okay, the creation of Latin American states. In the first decades of the 19th century, the Latin American colonies pursued an irresistible movement for independence. By 1825, Spanish and Portuguese power was broken in the Western Hemisphere. 9 new political unions emerged in Latin America: Mexico, Guatemala, Great Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, Paraguay, Argentina, and Chile, where four of Spain and Brazil had gained its independence from Portugal. Once free of those powers, however, the new nations of Latin America were hampered by European and North American dominance over their economic and political affairs.
The nation of Latin America faced a complex of dilemmas that bequeathed a frustrating century of political instability and foreign economic domination. Civil war, revolution, and regimes came and went with alarming and costly regularity. Progressive leaders who tried to modernize their country had to face opposition of powerful traditional institutions and massive and complex social problems.
For most of the new Latin American nations, their first half century was a time of decline and disappointment. The great liberators could not maintain control of the nations they had freed. The liberal urban Creoles who had begun the independence movements were inexperienced and unable to make the political compromise necessary to govern new countries. They soon lost power, recruit military leaders or caudillos whose armed gangs struggled for power in a confusing series of upheavals. A growing selectionalism accompanied these coups, but most states broke up into tiny republics, which in turn were trained by localism.
From the 1830s, each new Latin American republic go its own way, too often distracted by border conflicts with neighbors.
Strong men of this kind often emerge from the army, are a characteristic part of the religion's political life that Latin America has its own word for them. They are caudillos, and the very specific loyalty which they inspire to their followers is the cult of peninsulares.
The hero of Latin American independence is a prototype of the caudillo. In the opposition to Spanish domination, his acrobatic tendencies symbol the side of virtue. But as president of the liberated republics, while shining any trappings of monarchy, he is not all of the opposite to assuming the useful powers of a dictator. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, produced numerous examples of the caudillos in Latin America. The best known in the recent years is Argentina's Perón, who with the support of his wife Eva carries personalismo exceptional lengths. By the end of the 20th century, with the subcontinent progressing in peace and starts toward the democracy, military juntas rather than individual caudillos tend to be the problem.
So Some events suggest that Spain has let her colonies equipped for self-rule. Small privileged groups of Europeans and mestizos supported by the forced labor. The result is a pattern of main political chaos in which the ambitions of core leaders can be seen sometimes as cause of problems and sometimes as temporary solutions.
Latin America's problems resulted from the Spanish colonial system that had offered native-born whites little opportunity or responsibility in the government. The traditional autocracy and patronalism was a poor precedent for would-be Democrat Republicans. The emphasis on execute power inspiration presidents, general law owners, and church officers to wield authority without a disregard for public opinion and representative government.
The colonial economic system based on raw materials rather than industry encouraged concentration of land and other forms of wealth in a few hands. The church, with its vast properties, monopoly on education, and welfare agencies, and command over cultural life to complicate the politics of every new nation.
In addition, the new states were cruised by problems associated with the War of Independence. Some of the most productive areas were devastated. Hatred and division remained. Many men who had fought in the Royalists remained armed. Predisposed to a life of violence and privilege, and likely to group themselves about the caudillos who promised adventure or profit in revolution.
The final problem facing the new state was that of racial disunity. In the 1825, there were from 15 to 18 million people in the former Spanish Empire. About 3 million of them were whites, the whitest and most educated population. That figure remained constant until the last third of the century, when immigration from Europe increased drastically. There were about the same number of mestizos who scorned the Indians, but were not accepted by whites. The numbers steadily increased and did their ambition. During the 19th century, at least half of the population in some states was Indian, deprived from peonage or lived in semi-independence under their tribal rulers. Finally, in Brazil and most of the Caribbean islands, blacks were in large majority. Conflicts of interest quickly developed between these broad-racing groups, particularly between the Creoles and mestizos. The pernicious effect of these divisions factor can be seen in the experience of each nation.
After all the revolutions and independence, most of people in Latin America was engaged in agriculture. They worked for food and clothing for themselves. The land they farmed was owned primarily by hacendados or the Catholic Church. This was one of the two economic export factors in Latin America. Argentina and Uruguay exported cattle hides and beef. Bolivia, silver and mercury. Peru, silver and guano. Colombia exported precious metals and sugar. Brazil exported sugar and coffee, and Mexico exported silver, gold and cotton. And all of these exports went to Britain and other parts of Europe. Also, the economy from these countries started to grow due to negotiation from Britain to Brazil, Chile and Peru in the mid-century to late 1800s. Also, these countries had a struggle to define a central government in each country.